2021 to order. Would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Chief Yanuski, would you please lead us?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Did I get that right? Your name?
I don't know.
Okay.
Sounded close enough to me.
No one else
I think you got it
took
right.
the lead. so-
Chief, right?
Yes,
Chief, yeah.
yeah. Okay, agenda review. Barry?
I'm all set, thank you.
Keith?
I'm all set as well.
Kurt?
Good to me.
I'm set. Hunter, did you want to add in the lease for the communication system?
Well, to the degree it pleases the board, otherwise we can wait until your next meeting.
All right, let's stick it in under, at this point, informational, and if we decide to act on it tonight, we can
Okay.
Good.
decide. Com lease. All right. Anything else? Okay, moving on. We have the agenda from August 16th. Do I have a motion on the agenda?
Move to accept the agenda as presented. Excuse me.
Nice. I'll second that.
And Barry and I were not there.
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Excuse me,
Yes,
are you making a motion to accept the agenda or the minutes?
Yeah, I
The minutes.
said that wrong after I said it.
we can accept the
you.
agenda too if you'd like.
That's okay.
Now, normally I abstain when I'm not at a meeting. And Barry, I think you feel the same way,
Yeah.
which will leave it 2-2. At this point, even though I read them over and they seemed fine, I didn't watch the tape. Would you like to, instead of going forward with this, would you like to table it until we have the three of you that were present?
We can either table or we can put it till later and.
All right,
See if
let's
John
let's
shows
wait
up.
and see if
John
John
shows
shows up later, and we'll move it to the bottom of our agenda. That works. Consent agenda. We have the consent agenda for tonight. Is there a motion on that?
so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. All right, open forum. This is the opportunity for any member of the public to address the board on items that are not on the agenda. The public will be able to speak on agenda items when we get to it. Anyone willing to speak to the board right now? Yes, sir, and state your name for the record, please.
Dick Wenzel, New Hampshire.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do is give you a copy of this so I can get some answers. So there's no question. I can't get them nowhere else, so I would like the selectmen to answer the questions.
Okay, this is an email. You want to explain what we're looking at?
On the 13th, an email was sent to the selectmen, I think, from what I had. But it doesn't go directly, I don't know if it goes directly to you, or you have to get it, later on. So basically, these questions, they're along with over 80 questions by law that has not been answered under the right to know law. And these are a few things I never get an answer. And under the right to know law, I'm entitled. So if you take these in order, they're self-explanatory. So,
But before you go on, you mentioned there were 80 questions you submitted under your right to know law,
right,
and that was sent to the town manager?
yes,
And has he responded to you?
no.
Has he given you a time frame in which he would respond to you?
Some of the times he did, and some of the times he didn't. Most of the time he didn't. He just said he didn't understand, so we got another one. But there's more than that. But I only took 82 of them back there. So the law was violated over 80 times because some of the questions I asked didn't quite qualify for, that I was entitled to. But the ones that I was entitled to, I can't get an answer.
Okay. Now,
These questions here right to know law, I deserve an answer.
Okay.
So if the selectmen would like to answer them, then they can go down, because there's other problems, okay? Now, the Constitution, I went through this several times. The federal Constitution isn't like New Hampshire Constitution. It's different. So if people violate the federal Constitution, they can be sued as independents. Not with New Hampshire, but with the federal. So if you hire a federal Constitution person, you'll find there's quite a bit of difference. A simple one, when I posted no trespassing federally, and I did it with George, your tax assessor, and I did it with the selectmen, but it didn't make no difference. They broke the law, federal.
Who broke the law?
The town broke the law by dumping snow on the property that was posted, no trespassing, okay? And you can't do that. So, allegedly, not too awful long from now, the federal government has to come in and investigate you people.
Now, was the snow dumped within the right of way?
No, it was dumped on my property. It wasn't the right of way. And I have pictures for it.
Okay.
And George was served, when Cora was here, not to go on my property federally. Doesn't make any, the law don't make no difference to him. So he went on there, and it was documented. So I'm gonna let the federal government take care of that. That's just one of the issues. So does somebody wanna answer question one? Or anyone of the selectmen wanna answer question one?
Are you going to remove the water line as the law says? No. I will answer that one. No, we are not removing the water line that's been in place for 100 years or so. We have an easement for that. What's the term for that that's been there 20 years undisturbed?
Adverse possession.
Not adverse, it's some type of...
There's several different statutes that
Right,
are very similar.
but
There's three as a matter of fact.
according, a while ago when I looked up, because it's been in place 20 some years with no notice made of it, it's an easement.
Okay.
So
I sent 2 court cases that were lost from towns on this 20-year thing. I showed you the court cases that the towns lost because you had to view it, and you couldn't view it because it was in the ground. And the law is very specific, and the law is from the state of New Hampshire. And that's why those 2 towns lost.
Mhm.
And I gave you the 2 court cases,
Yeah.
so to save it to go.
All right, and just for the record, John Hooper has joined us via Zoom. Welcome, John.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
So I thought the law meant quite a bit. I didn't know that law even existed. One of the lawyers dug it up. He got it. And he says, they already lost two different towns. To save it for the selectmen, I said, these 2 towns have lost. Because the law says you have to view it. It's in the ground and it was never viewed. That's why the town's lost.
How long have you owned this piece of property?
15, 16 years.
And you bought it knowing the water line was there?
No. Because I had the lawyer check it. There was nothing said anything about that water line. Not one word. And he researched it, he says it's not. I missed that water line by almost a foot when I was digging to put the post in. There was no identification it was there. So it became a clean thing. And I also proved that the state, when they put that road in there, when they came down, the other water line went this way, then came down the street. And then later on, somebody, not you people, somebody put the water line in and they ran it this way, illegally, because they never had a permission and there was no view. So if you had somebody, you got a lot of lawyers, you got over 1,000 pieces of paper with legal bills, and you're spending over $1 million on legal bills, So another few ain't gonna hurt you. Check the law, and it's very clear, okay? It's very clear. I have a right, okay? Because it wasn't viewed. And the state law states it, and it's within the 20 years.
I'm willing to bet that that line was not put in illegally. It was probably put in, not in the middle of the night, but probably in the middle, during the day, with the full knowledge of the property owner at the time. And probably there was a failure on one or multiple property owners to pass on the information that, oh yeah, I let the town put a water line down there. So somewhere along the line, I would think someone owned that property that knew that the town was putting in a water line.
There's no easement filed, there's no nothing else filed, and it's under the 20-year frame, because that's what the law says. The law says, and I'll repeat it again, you have to view it, but you can't view it because it's under the dirt, the ground, so nobody knew. Now, he researched it for me, the title search, then he researched it again, and then he said, this is the law, so you can do what you want, because that is not going to be a good scene, because I've already started on it, and you guys want to take the chance, but before you do it, I would gladly let you read it again and have a lawyer tell you the law is very clear. I didn't see him put it in, nobody else seen him put it in, but somebody did put it there, but they didn't do it right.
Just to enlighten myself and the public, what's the issue with water? What is it, what's causing the angst that you have about the water line? What is it? You just want it removed, or?
No, the state and I have already settled, because they had an issue too, and they recognized it. So we made an easy deal. The old water line comes down and it cuts off that piece of property.
Right.
Okay? So when it cuts off the property, you got other problems coming up. What happens is, the water line comes there, I can't build on top of that water line.
Okay.
Okay?
So
I
you're
can't
planning on
build.
building at some point?
Well, not me, but somebody else is,
Okay.
because it has water and sewer and all that stuff. And all I wanted to do was get the thing squared around. Now, the state, they already came across the road, and they have a culvert right there. And I've already said in an email, their water comes right to here. Where the water goes the rest of the way is nothing to do with them. So a few years ago, they was having a problem, and I let the state put a curve in there, because the water was going over the road. The curve is gonna go away. So your water is gonna go where that little green thing is, so the phone company is gonna go right across that road. So you guys are gonna have water on top of the road going down.
I went up to go look at it at one time. It
Yeah.
was a skunk that, yes.
But where the state stopped,
Yeah.
made them a deal, so that water's gonna go right across the road.
Now, one time when you were meeting with Hunter on this, you did offer to provide an easement, add an easement to the, your deed and pay you for that easement, correct?
He offered to pay to have the easement. That was it.
Okay.
But it doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever. Because if you take that water line and you look where the signs were, and you run that down through there, it takes that whole corner, and it doesn't belong there. And I tried, because the other water line goes down, so I don't know why they don't use it like they're supposed to. They wouldn't be a problem. Because where that road was built, that's where the water line went. For some strange reason, they just cut me a piece of, well, it wasn't mine at the time. They just cut it and put it in, that was it. And the title search and everything else. Now, the state, we didn't have much of a problem. I compromised, they compromised, they moved everything over. So you're gonna end up with another problem. Because about 5-6 months ago, Knoll Street up there has 40-foot right-of-way. You guys taking 90 feet of right-of-way. We'll get to it. That was 6-7 months ago. It's always, we'll get to it. It's not a problem. because where the telephone pole lines are, the new ones, and where everything is. And I even sent a map from the state. I asked if you guys, I think Todd Tratzo was, I said, I'll give you a map from the state. I paid for the whole thing, and you can see where it's going. No, we don't need to do it. Okay. So as it stands right now, the town, you guys can do what you want. The law is on my side, and the cases are on my side, and they can add and do anything they want, but they're gonna follow the law. Now, I don't have a problem if they wanna kick it over and, come down. I can compromise a little bit, but I'm not gonna let them cut that off, because the drainage coming from the other side of the road, you got two problems.
How much of your property are we cutting off?
30+ feet or more. Because it comes down like this, it comes to it with a thing. And I put stakes up there so everybody could see where it was. And because they resurveyed it. And when you're coming off Knoll Street to turn right, I own about 10 to 12 inches of your road. And I had to resurvey it again. I said, because that doesn't make any sense. But everything got messed up down there. And nothing against you guys. It's just sometimes it gets messed up, and it's messed up. So, myself, I don't like dilemmas, and I'm always willing to do something. But when somebody takes a hard core to me, being I lived here my whole life, the law is that, but people should compromise and do it. But there were no compromise. The only thing I was told is they will pay to have it on. And that doesn't do nothing, because it takes the more value from what the property is. And I'm not going to be hard about it. And this thing here has dragged along a long time. And I don't know why the Board of Selectmen don't say to an attorney, is this right or wrong? There's 2 court cases that already say it. So I'm not making it up. So you guys can play with the 20 years and all that stuff. But the law is very clear, which I didn't know. You have to see it, and you can't see it. So that's when that law stepped in and was doing it. Who wants to answer number 2?
What's number 2?
I don't have all the questions, so I can't answer questions that I don't have.
Yep. We'll have to see the questions.
Well, there has been some attempt to answer some of them, not correct?
Okay, so we'll go to number 3.
Have you seen the location where the water line is and the work I've started? I have not been up there, so I have
I don't
not.
even know where Knoll Street is.
And I didn't want to trespass, so I didn't get out of the car. I did drive by.
Yeah, I've gone by it.
Well, so you don't have to get nervous. You selectmen want to go on, the town manager wants to go on, you have my permission to go on land, walk it and do as you want, and so you can actually see it, so you'll understand it. So that way, there's no problems.
I dig down and see the pipe.
No.
Flagged, or is the water line flagged or posted, or so we know where the water line is?
If you look at where I got my post, it comes from Unity Road right down, and as my post sits this way, it's only 6 inches from my post, but maybe a foot, and it comes right straight across. And you'll see it on the map, because I had a map for it. Okay?
Question for the board or for Hunter.
Sure.
We're starting to replace water lines up on Unity Road. Does that fall under these replacement lines at some point, or?
Well, at some point perhaps, but not in the foreseeable future. It's not one of the older, believe it or not, it's not one of the older, more troublesome sections.
Number 5.
Have you sought legal counsel on this?
Yes, several times.
So you have an answer?
Yes, the legal counsel has reviewed the matter and says the town has every right to have the pipes where they are. There's no reason or legal basis to remove them.
What about the viewing part of
It's not pertinent. There's all kinds of easements. People get to walk across, snowmobile across, ride horses across. people's property that would leave no evidence of, of a crossing, so to speak.
Well, let me chime in here. Those 2 court cases weren't lost because the horses are running around. That, I'm doing this personally and up to date. It's a state law. So he can come up with whatever he wants. If he has a lawyer that says it, then he best be putting it in black and white, because the 2 court cases they already lost. It wasn't Newport, it was 2 other ones. So it depends on what lawyer you hire, which is fine. All they gotta do is check it, because it has to be viewed, and that's a state law. So somebody's not telling the truth sitting in this room, okay? So lawyers are lawyers.
Well, I mean, lawyers look at the same law and argue 2 sides of it. That's how they make their money. You know, if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't need lawyers.
I agree with you, but it is a state law, and that's why the other 2 towns lost.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just for the record, we've seen all of these questions for a right-to-know request is for documents and printed information, not for opinions. A lot of these are new questions today. A lot of these are matters of opinion or experiences that can't be documented, can't be recovered through a 91A or a right-to-know FOIA request. So we've responded to 100% of the questions that have been posed to us, sometimes on multiple occasions. And our attorney has rendered an opinion on this matter several times, and in fact, if he had not been on vacation last week, Mr. Wenzel would have gotten a letter to that effect, and I expect he'll get that letter this week, in black and white, consummating the attorney's opinion. Again, this is not the first time we've done this several times.
Number 5, who's going to answer that?
What are you gonna do about the animal shelter with George Hildum violating the law? I think we've spoken to that before. And at this point, we're satisfied with his performance, the work he does, and
So in other words, he gets a 1099, okay? In a little while back, I get all his statements. So a little while back, from 93 on, he's supposed to bid over $10,000. He started in 99.
Nope, let me stop you right there. We have an exception to the bid, and part of it is for professional services.
Mhm.
So, per our policy, we do not have to require a bid for that position. Is that correct? Okay.
That's correct.
So, there's nothing that says he has to bid. It's basically our discretion, whether we put that work out to bid year to year or whatever the frequency we decide.
So when did that change? They have to have a documentation when it changed, because wait a minute, he gets a 1099, okay? And I know for a fact, because I had the paperwork and I sent it in. Number 1, he has to be qualified, and number 2, he has to have insurance. So if he gets a 1099 and a selectman says to him, George Hildred, you charged us over $20,000 for the month of June 2 years ago, okay? $20,000, how did you come up with that bill? $20,000 for 1 month. And we pay for a secretary for him, and he uses all that stuff in a 1099. So, and then you're saying, was it you people that changed? Or was it some, because there's no record ever being changed, unless you just came up with it. And as far as George goes, okay, he was given, when his secretary, our secretary, and she gave him the thing not to go on that property because it was federally posted. Law don't mean nothing to him, okay? And when when Todd was here, I had paperwork in my hand that George had a similar problem with another one of his clients, so he resigned. And I said, do you want to see it? No, we don't want to see it. Of course, because he had 6 originally. And in 1 month, he worked 13 some hours, 12 some hours, 13 hours in 3 days, and he logged in almost 40 hours for money. 3 days. He comes from Compton, so he comes up. I mean, that's a pretty good deal. He's got 4 or 5 other businesses, you know, that he has to do. So he puts in 40, almost 40 hours for 3 days. But he can't answer why he charged over $20,000 for 1 month in all the stuff that we do for him. So, and I proved this several times. I even sent you people a bill. It was $216,000, okay? Because George overdid $5.3 million. So we had to write a check out from town of Newport, and I had a copy of the check for $216,000. Then we had to send another check for $44,000 for legal bills. What in blue blazes are the taxpayers paying for something he's supposed to have? And then I sent the register of deeds on the golf course. It was a 10-year contract. He didn't do it right. And I showed and proved and gave you, not you guys, I gave you a whole copy of what happened. So we lost about $300,000 in 9 years because of what George was doing. Okay? So when somebody's not qualified and the selectmen keep him on call, there's something wrong. If you employed people, you'll know exactly what that is. So
Let me respond to a couple of things. A year or two back, we had, was it Department of Labor in here?
Yes, at Mr.
In
Wenzel's
here.
request.
And they looked over how George works for us. They also looked over a lot of other employment and labor situations in the town, and they were in here, what, 1 or 2 days or so?
At least, yeah.
And they came up with a list of deficiencies for us to correct. And that list, it consisted of when people take lunch, they need to list the time they take for lunch and when they come back, period. Okay, so the Department of Labor, New Hampshire Department of Labor, is happy with the way our arrangement is with George and such. And you talk about the case where, you know, we basically lost a couple $100,000 worth of, I guess, tax revenue because of his assessing. That happens. You assess someone, a big company with the property worth a bunch of hundreds of thousands of dollars or maybe a couple $1 million, and they come back and said, well, this is, you know, actually this, and you go back and forth, and the tax bill gets adjusted.
5.3 million. That's where he was off. And the court said that had to be paid back, which was $216,000.
Exactly. Yeah. They said it was overassessed for $5 million. Okay, well then we do owe them the money back. Right now we're in a legal challenge with New London Hospital over the Newport Health Center. If that only costs us $200,000 to $300,000, if we lose that, we'll be very fortunate. You know, and that's costing a lot of money in legal too. But, you know, that could impact the cash flow of the town. If the courts decide, you know, 100% in their favor versus, you know, coming up with what has been more common with medical facilities in the state, you know, with some sort of, you know, agreement, you know, amount in between. So, yeah, I mean, if we only end up losing a couple hundred or 300,000 there, we'll be fortunate.
So my question is, why did we pay for it?
Pay for what?
The $216,000, because if you're hired as a contractor.
We did not pay. The property value was reassessed less. Therefore, the amount we collected for taxes based upon the inflated value we owed back to the property owner.
Yes, but it wasn't your fault. It was George Hillwood's fault. He's liable. So in other words, every contractor you hire, wait a minute, every contractor you hire, and if they make a mistake, you want the taxpayers to pay for it.
There is no liability. It's the assessment got adjusted. It's like anyone, once they get their tax bill, can come in and say, well, my basement isn't finished, it's unfinished. It's like, okay, we owe you back that $300 or $400.
Everyone has the right to
Yeah.
contest it.
But when you're a big corporation and your property's worth millions, you know, there's a couple of extra zeros on the end of the adjustment sometimes. So, that's normal. It happens. We don't like it when it happens a lot, but, you know, we don't spend that money until we know that, yes, it is settled. So it was basically held pending outcome of that case, and it's like, okay, we returned their money back to them because the property was determined to be assessed for less than what we had assumed based upon the information we had at that time. There might have been some information that the property owners didn't make available to us.
So what you're saying to me is every subcontractor that you make out, they do not have to have liability insurance and they don't have to be qualified.
No, I didn't say that. You said that.
Was liability proven in the court case?
Yes.
I don't think it was.
No.
No,
It's not
but not
liability.
George's liability. Nothing that I've read states George Hildreth was liable for this amount of money.
He was the contractor.
He did the assessment. Yeah, I agree with you
That's
there.
right. He worked for
Yeah.
the town under 1099, okay?
But it is not, I mean, to me, it's a pretty big mistake, but like Jeff said, and it's kind of oversimplifying to say those things happen. Shouldn't happen, but go ahead.
Again, just to add to that, you know, assessment is not an exact science, it is an art. Your assessor renders an opinion based on his or her experience and knowledge and education. A value was rendered, property owner appealed. The select board and the property owner negotiated a settlement or settled upon a value.
Through the court?
Well, to get it to keep the options alive,
Okay.
the taxpayer filed an appeal, which is illegal in the court, so a legal appeal of their assessment. So the select board and the property owner came to a negotiated settlement of a value that was acceptable to the select board, who are the board of assessors, and the property owner. You know, whenever you have a lawsuit or a legal process that is initiated, there has to be some conclusion to it. You can't just leave it open in the courts. It just doesn't read right. So when that settlement came about, the settlement was submitted to the courts, and the court said, you all are in agreement with this? The select board said yes. Ruger was asked the same question. They said yes. The judge rendered an opinion or an order validating that settlement as being his order. He said, fine, the parties are in agreement. This is what the settlement is. So ordered. See you later. Out the door we went. It's
And
not
we
a
paid
finding.
that amount of money to them.
We refunded. Refunded
Yeah.
the money that was associated with the overassessment, or the assessment that was negotiated, the adjustment. There was no rendering that the town had made an error, had done something egregious, had done something incompetent, nothing along those lines. This happens all the time. But Mr. Kessler is correct, when you're dealing with a corporation that has multiple millions of dollars worth of buildings, you know, a 1 or 2% error there is a much different number than a 1 or 2% error on an average house. So the numbers are bigger, but there's no malice, there's no incompetence, there's no, it's just that's the way the assessment process works.
So, diverting a little bit, when someone submits a bill that is out of line, like for $22,000 in July, does anybody follow up on that?
Yes. I can't give you the chapter and verse of that, but I looked at that particular bill.
I know because I asked you about it.
Yeah, it was for specific hours rendered, I believe, during a revaluation. So during a revaluation, George is here for very, very long days. Contrary to Mr. Wenzel's representation before, we have lots of employees that work 10 or 12 hours a day. Let's see, I'm working on 12 hours at the moment. So it is possible during a reval period for someone to put in a very full day before they're done with their chores. If it was every day for routine things, I would be concerned about that, but it had, specifically, as I recall, was related to a revaluation. And these materials, this information has been related to Mr. Wenzel in the past. Mr. Hildem has insurance. Copies of the insurance have been sent to Mr. Wenzel, and so on and so forth. So we're going over the same territory, I'm afraid.
So who's going to answer number 6?
What was number 6?
Right there in front of you.
When am I going to receive all the meetings that were non-public session?
And I sent you the law at the same time.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the law. Non-public session, there'd be minutes for them and they should be available to you.
There should be, yeah. And I've asked for them before.
Did you specify which ones, or was it just general you want all non-public minutes?
Just, I gave you the law and everything.
Right.
And I waited. Okay?
Now,
So, that's under the right to know law too.
and I believe they're all posted on the town website. You're talking about our non-public meetings, right? They would be on the town website.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
We can, as you notice that if you read this particular sentence, it's really incomplete. I don't know what he's referring to. When am I going to receive all of the meetings? All the meeting minutes is apparently what he's after. That has not been made clear to us in the past. All these minutes are available in the upstairs office. He's free to come in from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and review them to his heart's content.
And as I said, they're also,
Non-public session.
All the minutes for all of our meetings that are legally accessible by the public are upstairs in our files, and they're backed up by video files
Right.
and other locations.
and they're on our website.
And yes,
I find them on the website a lot of times if I'm looking back for something.
Number 7.
And
We're almost done.
Number 7, how many department heads do not reside in Newport? That I don't know offhand. We have a few that don't.
Is that a problem?
Pardon?
Is that a problem if they don't live in Newport?
Well, when Sagios was chairman of the board, they made it a rule that the town manager, the selectmen, and department heads, they have 90 days to reside in the town of Newport, and it's never been changed. Okay?
Where is this rule? Is it in the town ordinances?
This was voted on. Chairman, and Ray Barrett was the selectman, and he lived in Sunapee. So they wanted to change it.
Wait a minute, who is living in Sunapee?
Ray Barrett, and he was the selectman in Newport.
That's different. I mean,
That's why they
that is,
changed
I
it.
think state law requires you to be, you run for office where you are registered to vote, which tends to imply that's where basically your home is.
Right.
But department heads are not elected in the town, they're hired, the town manager is hired by this board, and then the department heads are hired by the town manager. And there is no requirement for them to live in town. For certain positions, like the fire chief and the police chief, we pretty much want them within a certain response time. And the same goes for a lot of the firefighters and ambulance people. You have to be able to respond within a certain amount of time. Is that correct, chief?
to a certain extent.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, we don't expect someone to respond to a fire, be a call fireman and live down in Concord or so and be like 50 minutes away. That's just,
So what is their distance? Well, so what's
No,
reasonable?
I said reasonable for the first responders and such, and say the fire chief and police chief. I think rule of thumb has been about 20 minutes.
Both our police and fire chief and public works director are all under written contract to reside within a 20-minute response time
Okay.
for emergency response purposes.
Does that mean with flashing lights going?
Yep.
And certainly probably takes, you could probably get from one side of town to the other in less than 20 minutes, so.
Well, that's the fallacy over time, and not necessarily Newport, but there are communities, I happen to have lived in one in my career, that it would take you longer to get from one side of town to the other than it would for you to get, for instance, the town office building or the fire station was within a mile of the state line. So you could actually have a fireman, a policeman, or whatever, living 2 miles away from the fire station, 2 minutes or less away, and be in another state, as opposed to a policeman or fireman that lived within the town's jurisdiction, but at the far end of town, which would have taken them 10 minutes to get there, or 15 minutes to get there. And so the general rule of thumb and the trend in municipal employment is that the standard for geographic location really is not reasonable or sustainable, but the response time requirement is, because you can make a viable argument that an emergency employee or an employee responding to an emergency circumstance is not of value to you if they are living in a place that causes them to have an extended response time.
And I think we have not had an issue with department heads living outside of town. They are in town during emergencies, like during the recent flooding. All three were in town and on site. And in general, I think going forward, if this board or another board decided we're only going to look at applicants for these positions that reside within town, that's limiting this community to a very small pool of candidates, if any at all, when you're looking for the best people to serve your community. Yeah, once upon...
What about number 8? I'm going to go through this quick now. What about number 8?
Number 8. Oh. When are you going to resolve Knoll Street right away, 40 feet, you have 90 feet?
And that's been 7 months, by the way.
Well, the right of way is 90 feet, why would we want to cut it back?
It's not 90 feet, it's 40.
Okay.
That they're taking 90.
Who's taking 90?
The town, highway.
Oh. For what? For the street?
And it's been 9 months, I haven't got an answer yet.
I mean, we took it 9 months ago, or you asked the question 9 months ago?
Yes, 8 to 9 months ago.
You asked the question.
It was in writing.
But how long has the street been there?
Knoll Street, and you have it on your sketch, because I gave it to you. It's 40 feet coming right down. And then when you get there, they spread out the whole thing. That's why I own part of the street, because they spread it right out. So when are they gonna straighten it out? And I offered, I think I even gave you a map. So if you have 40 feet, that doesn't mean you can use 90, unless you make arrangements with, whoever's around.
Yeah, I'm going to have to pass on that one.
Okay, we're almost done. And so number 9, we don't agree on that at all.
No, number 9, any job over $10,000 has to be put out to bid. There's been a lot of work on the streets. Could I see the bids? As far as street work, those have been put out to bid, except for the work we do ourselves with our town crew. I think right now, we have Pike Industry working up on Blueberry Ridge and Barton Whitney, and that was put out to bid. We've had work done by Stevens, and that was put out to bid.
Correct.
And also some work, he was doing some repair work to sidewalks that was under warranty. So, but as far as, doing actual work in town versus hiring, in the case of George, a consultant, which we do not have to put out to bid, we haven't put any work like that out without a contract over $10,000 that I'm aware of. We may, as I said, some of the work we have probably been doing ourselves. So I don't know what else.
Mr. Chairman, the $10,000 really isn't relevant. Initially, when this was brought to our attention a couple of years ago, it was asserted that there was a state law. There is no such thing. There is no state law. There's no federal law requiring or setting standards for bidding out projects. In the current procurement policy, the numbers are quite a bit higher than this $10,000. I wasn't prepared to discuss this evening, but I believe that the competitive bid limit starts at either 20 or 25,000.
Okay.
And that's what the towns adopt, right? They changed it from 10 to 20, right? According to the town manager.
20 or 25, I don't remember off the top of my head.
I would assume so. I can't recall what it is.
Okay.
And but there are different layers. If it's a small $5,000 or $10,000 job, we usually tend to at least get telephone bids. We call around and
Yeah.
compare pricing, and then the next category up, we call around and get written proposals, and then above either 20 or 25, it's a competitive bid, sealed bid process,
Okay.
with the exceptions that you've pointed out.
Yeah.
Exceptions for legal services, appraisal work.
Professional
Yeah,
services. And
professional.
certainly some of the work that gets done in towns, especially with some of the grants that we get funding for, they have requirements concerning putting things out to bid and the type of contracts and stuff. And some of them are easy to deal with. Some of them have you doing paperwork and proposals for months before you can even get started.
So I'm going to pass all the stuff on the bottom part, but there's one question I have here. So George Hildred violated the federal constitution. George Hildred is going to be sued. So are you people going to pay his bill too when he loses?
Which article?
Of the Constitution, do you know?
Federal.
No, which article in the federal Constitution?
You have the Constitution of New Hampshire, and you have the federal. Wait a minute. Most lawyers don't know the federal, and we use the federal because it has a lot.
Okay.
And I sat right here a while back and had it in my hand, and I could prove to you that there was a town that got sued personally on the planning board with the federal constitution, not the state. And I've showed you guys, and I'm going to show you any more. Laws, rules, and regulations, if they're made, okay, and they violate the federal constitution, they're no good. That's why the federal takes over from the state. And I put it in writing, and I showed you the cases, and I had it in my hand to verify, because they have a whole different ways of doing business. Laws, rules, and regulations, if you violate the federal constitution, there's going to be trouble. Now, all you have to do is hire a lawyer that knows the federal law, and you'll see stuff in there that will start you. Okay? And that's good. But I'm going to leave you with this. Over 80 answers under the right to know law I have not received. Now, according to the town manager, he answered every single one. Now, there's a very easy solution to it. Look at what I asked, okay, because I have it marked down. Under the right to know law, I never got an answer, some of the stuff, and there's going to be a problem, because there's over 80 of them. So they've broken the law over 80 times. Sometimes it's personally. Sometimes, none of you people. Sometimes it was personal. And those are the ones that are going to have to answer. They're going to have to hire their own lawyers, and they're going to have to answer them. And I don't think none of you guys were on the board at the time, so you're all safe. But the ones that did this, and they used their authority, okay, and it tells you right on there in the federal constitution, if you use your authority to harm, etc., down through the line, you become personally liable. And there's some people that have used their authority and they violated the state constitution, so they're going to have to answer personally. So I don't want to chew up any more time because Bert's going to sleep over there. So,
One question for you.
yes, sir.
If you have 80 questions that haven't been answered, can you send me a list of that 80 questions? Since I don't seem to have a list of 80 questions.
Do we have a copy of those 80 questions?
Yeah, why don't you send them to all of us?
Well, I think there's something I'd like to have you do, Dick, before, to make sure that those 80 questions meet the level of,
Right to know law.
The
Yes,
law.
they are.
that you're sure they do.
No, I had them checked.
Okay.
I had them checked. And sometimes it's easier, I'm not gonna say who, to not tell the truth and want it to resolve itself, okay? Now, I've been here too long, all my life, and some people just say, well, maybe we don't want to do this, and we'll sit on it. Now, when you talked about your people down in Concord down there, I talked to the commissioner and sister commissioner both, and we sat right there and we talked about it. But then when it came, it wasn't just one little item. And then after they wiggle wormed out, I talked to them again. And then I was informed of something, and I said, well, I understand politics works completely different, okay? And I said, so it's a town. So the town gets a break, and a cop gets a break from another cop. They all kind of shuffle in. And the next meeting that I come to isn't going to be very good because I have it over my garage. I have something over my garage that's going to irritate every man on this, I think it's going to irritate every man on this board. And I'm pretty sure the public is going to be somewhat ugly. Now, I know what the truth is. The town manager knows what the truth is. The right to know law, because I took some of this stuff off, they didn't get answered. Just like not getting an answer now. What about Knoll Street? It's only been 9 months. It's not right. But, Bert, you can wake up. I'm out.
I just have one question for you.
Yeah.
Are you expecting somebody here at the town office to research all of this, print it out, and send it to you?
They don't have to research it if they don't want to.
Well, Are you looking for it all on paper?
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of pages, 80 questions, and how many, are you gonna pay 10 cents a copy?
25 cents.
25 cents a copy? Or
Or
you can come to the town office like
They
the manager
know.
said, and
You people don't.
sit and read it.
They know how many of these things are against the right to know law, okay? It took some time, and I took out a lot of stuff because I wanted to make sure it was right to know law, okay? And it's a very simple thing for the town.
Yeah, I understand all that, but Hunter also said you're welcome to come here and read it yourself. There it is.
I know.
So what's the problem?
There's no problem, because I don't have to pay 25 cents a copy either.
Right, you can come here and read it. So,
Well, the public has a right to know why there's so many legal bills. There's over 1,000 pages in legal bills, over $1 million. Now, to me, that's a lot of money, and it's going to get worse, especially if they lose with a hospital down there. But it's been over 3 years plus. So, you do your surrounding towns, and over $1 million for the little town of Newport with 6,300 people for just legal bills. To me, that's a lot of money,
that is a lot of money.
and it's growing fast. So,
Mr. Chairman,
Bert,
just a point of clarification. Mr. Wenzel is able to recite those pieces of information to you, the amount of the legal bills and the number of pages, because in response to his last FOIA request, we went out and pulled out all of our legal bills, made copies for him, and provided him with that information. So he has gotten responses. It was, I believe it was over 400 pages. They had to be redacted because there was information on there that was excluded from the right to know law. And it took the better part of a week or two to get that done. So we do respond when a specific request is made for a document. We are not required under a FOIA or a right to know law to create a record or create information where it doesn't exist. So he is always welcome to come in and review our records to his heart's content. We invite him to have his attorney contact us. We'd be more than happy to discuss these matters with them at that time. And we look forward to specific requests for information we're happy to provide at his convenience.
I will admit, they did. They said, I was told there's over 1,000 pages. And they said 25 cents a page. And I said, well, there's something wrong here. So I took it another way. And then, but they gave me, under the right to know law, I had it all printed out, had to put on a little tape. So they did do that particular one.
And perhaps most importantly, the $1 million that
He refers to, I can't validate that at this moment in time.
that information does exist, but that includes all of the litigation that went on for years with AECom and all the town's legal fees for all matters over that period of time.
And we did win that case.
We did.
Well, I'd gladly send you a copy how it was done, because I had an accountant do it, not me.
I saw the stack of paper.
We-
I saw the stack of paper.
I mean, we see, legal expenses in our budgets and stuff, and it's a lot more than we'd like.
Well, thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for coming.
I'm gonna sit.
Jeff, before he leaves, can I just make a comment?
For who leaves? Dick wasn't gonna leave, he was gonna sit and watch the rest of the
Okay,
show.
I just wanted to comment on something that
Okay.
I think would, we've had quite a discussion here tonight, but we can't get a picture of that picture that's up here. It's a nice picture of the town of Newport with a rainbow over it. And it was taken and donated by Dick's granddaughter, Hillary, former student of mine, by the way. And, so I just wanted to point that out.
All right. Open forum. Anyone else interested in speaking to the board? Yes, sir. And state your name for the record.
Glenn West, Newport, New Hampshire.
Hi.
Well, I had a lot of questions, but I agree with Dick, most of the time you don't get answers, so. I would just like to present my resignation from the town of Newport.
Okay, you need to present that to your supervisor.
Well, I just like the public to know that, the town's going to pot.
Okay. Well, sorry you feel you need to resign and that you feel the town's going to pot. Do you have any specifics you're willing to share with us, or you can share it with your supervisor or the town manager in private if you prefer?
Well, we got a pot pack that don't meet ADA code because you have barricades in the way. We put a new bar service counter in the Opera House that does not meet ADA code. We got a fence in North Newport that costs big money and it's already rotten. Supposed to split, half of them were not backfilled. But nothing gets resolved.
Okay.
Now, then I get complaints on the way I do my work. So, I'm willing to step down from my position.
How long have you worked for the town?
7 years on this strip. I was here 3 to 4 years when I was 15 and up.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Well, it would be wildly inappropriate for me to pursue this very far, if I might. I'd like to ask, when is that effective?
Well, I'm done?
Yeah.
The 13th,
13th of September?
3:30 PM.
Okay, great.
All right. Sorry you feel you had to do it in public like this, but I appreciate you mentioning some of the concerns you have.
Well, it's to the point now I don't know who's in control. We're getting moved all over the place, so
Okay.
damned if you do, damned if you don't, so.
Is that in reference to the move down to the DPW?
Yes.
Take it you're not in favor of that.
I asked my supervisor for the new, what we're gonna be doing, and she got no response, so.
Well, you were told, your group was told that you were going to be moving.
Yeah, but the new job descriptions that was listed on the sheet.
Okay.
Yeah, well, nobody can tell us that.
But the jobs haven't changed. The
Not yet.
descriptions haven't changed.
I'm not comfortable going down in a backroom office with black mold growing. No extra signs, no nothing.
That's at the new place you're moving to?
That would be down to the public works garage.
Okay.
Okay. All right, anything else?
I feel more comfortable on the outside looking in. I can join Mr. Wenzel and sit here and just complain.
We look forward to having you come anytime you feel you want to. And I thank you for your service to the town and sorry you feel you have to leave under these circumstances.
Well, it's just getting harder and harder to work for. Everybody's just clashing together. You know, county, town, school, town, library, town. Town I grew up in, so I'm just watching it go downhill.
All right, well, thank you for your comments.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
Anything else you want to mention right now, or?
Me?
You, yes.
No.
Okay, but as I said, anytime you want to come and express your concerns or opinions as to how we're doing or such, you're more than welcome.
I'm just gonna be on the other side, looking in.
Okay. Anyone else for open forum? All right. There being no one else, before we move on to Selectmen, John, now that you're here, we skipped over the minutes because Barry and I were not there, and so it'd be you, Keith, and Herb who were here. So we're going to go back and see if we can get a quorum to approve the minutes of August 16th. All right?
I'm ready.
All right.
I'll move to accept.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Herb. Any discussion? All those in favor? Let's do a roll call since John's on the video. John?
Yes.
Herb?
Yes.
Keith?
Yes.
Barry?
Abstain.
And I will abstain. Okay. We've taken care of the minutes. Thank you. Moving on, communications, Board of Selectmen. John, you're up. Like your office.
Nothing new from me. Thank you.
Okay. Herb?
I'm all set.
Barry? Oh,
Sorry,
nope, it's all right.
I'm all set.
Keith?
I have nothing.
All I'll say is last Saturday was the Apple Pie Craft Fair and the Library Festival, and I think I was there for a few hours, and it was great to see people out and about on the common and such, the community getting together. Even Archie Mountain was out there, who's sitting over there under the monitor now, so it's nice to see Archie is back, so we got to be careful what we do, or we'll be reading about it. And but the weather worked out. I think everyone that was there enjoyed it. And as I said, it's good to see the community out and about again. And also, we have 2 days, tonight and tomorrow. We are still in the running to win $25,000
Yes.
toward creating a new dog park here in Newport. This would be on town-owned property, sort of behind Advanced Auto, Dollar General. It's an opportunity to pretty much make another investment in the community, which for those people that have a dog, and since my daughter got a dog, I have a dog now, it's nice to have a place to let the dog run around. So I appreciate dog parks. They add to the community, and this is an opportunity for us to move forward. I know there's a group in town that's been trying to get one for a few years. This will, push their fundraising over the edge and make this a reality. So anyone who can, I would encourage you to go on the town website. I think there's a link there to go ahead and select the Newport, New Hampshire for a dog park, and cast your vote by just entering your email and clicking, I guess, vote. With 2 days left, you can do it tonight, and you can do it again tomorrow. And from what we had heard, among the 20 or 30 towns in the running, there's only about 5,000 votes that were separating the top of the heap from the bottom of the heap. And I think it's the top 5 get the funding for a dog park. So this will just be another thing Newport has to shine about. And that's all I got.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If I can emphasize one important point, because I know people are always concerned about their taxes. This particular project is fully funded by non-taxpayer resources. There are no local property taxes going to be invested in this effort.
Right, but it will be put on town property, which
Yes.
is one of the conditions of the contest.
It's not a condition, but it is a feature that earns us support.
Yeah.
Because it shows commitment.
Right, the
By the
property
community.
has to already be available.
Right.
So,
And it's currently an idle piece of property subject to flooding.
and also, people were at the Apple Pie Craft Fair, they might have come across the town booth where Economic Development Coordinator had a banner flying showing a lot of the checks we've gotten in for various amounts, from $600,000 down to $5,000 or $10,000, and one of those checks was for a community garden, which
Correct.
is planned to go in adjacent to the dog park.
That's correct. They'll both be the same parcel.
So, and that's all I have. Hunter, anything?
No, the community garden would also be privately funded as well.
Okay, moving on, informational. Let's see. A, updated fire alarm ordinance. Chief, this you? Want to
It
speak
is.
to this?
Yes, I can. They should have copies.
They should have, yeah.
Yes.
So, Mr. Chair, this is not provided actually for action tonight, but
Yep.
what we call a first read.
Okay.
For you to go through, ask the chief questions, what its intention is, what the impact of it is, and to see how you feel about it, and we can make amendments as necessary. And at your next meeting, we would ask you to then consider it for action, formal action.
Yep. I guess my question would be, what are the changes we're looking at from what was here before?
Well, really, what we don't have anything right now.
Okay.
So what this ordinance hopefully would do is that it would standardize fire alarm systems that are put into commercial buildings.
Okay.
So right now, if you put a commercial building in and you have to have a fire alarm system in it, you could put whatever style you want. And then we have a key that would open it. So right now, we have like 4 or 5 different keys for different types of fire alarm panels.
Okay.
What this ordinance would do would streamline that process and say, this is what we're looking for, this is the type of key we want, so that we're not fumbling around with 6 or 7 different keys. We have one key that can open up all the fire alarms. So it just gives guidelines to people that are installing fire alarms into buildings on what we're looking for, and just to standardize the process.
Now, would this address an issue such as what I heard down at Plaza Pizza, where you had a fire in one unit and there was no fire alarm going off in the adjacent units in that strip?
It would.
Okay.
So that, and it would also require, in this ordinance, would also require that any place that's required by fire code to have a fire alarm system installed, they would have to put in a non-destructive key box. We use the Knox box system that allows for keys for the property to be put in there, and then we have one master key that opens that box up that gives the key. As an example, when we had the fire down there at Camden Brook, we have no keys to any of those storefronts. So to gain entry to those storefronts, we had to force the doors.
Right.
So if we would have the Knox box system installed in that, we could have the key to open the doors to gain entry.
Right, but isn't that what you carry an axe for, to gain entry?
It does, and we can, I recommend to property owners that to get the Knox box system put in.
Yeah.
We can get in,
Yeah.
and we will get in. It's just a matter of how much damage you
Right,
want
and I'm
done.
thinking back, I don't know, John, were you in town for the Rite Aid fire? I mean, if I remember right, that was a case where they pulled like the metal screen, and you didn't have a key for it, and that took a little effort to get through. But that's been resolved. But that was see, I'm thinking more like that, just a regular door, it's easier, but those metal.
Those metal and those, like the ones at the plaza down there, all those storefronts with the metal frame glass in them.
Okay, yeah,
We had to force the frames,
okay.
so.
Are there numerous vendors that install these systems, or is this going to restrict
No,
to one or two?
this won't restrict the vendors. There's numerous vendors. It would just give a guideline. They can key the boxes any way they want. So if you want to put as an example, system A in, fire alarm system, I'm just making it up, and that's what you use, this ordinance would say you have to have this specific key. And you could key your box, any box, to that one single key, so that we're just on, everybody's on the same key pattern. And that's what it basically does. And it would also address the need for the smoke detectors in the adjoining units to be able to activate the fire alarm system. Those kind of things, just to streamline it. Right now, we have nothing that kind of guides the installers when they come in.
Okay. There's no state code for this thing?
There's a state code on just the way the installation has to be, the spacing of the smoke detectors, that kind of thing. But it doesn't really address the specifics of what keys to use and those kind of things. Just that system has to be installed.
And this will apply to new construction and renovations going forward.
Exactly.
We're not going to make current landlords and such retroactively update.
No.
Okay. This doesn't add a major expense to construction, would it?
No. This would only be for work, this ordinance will only come into effect on buildings and properties that require a fire alarm system.
Okay.
And what you're talking about is major manufacturing, apartment buildings with over 11 units.
Over 11 units?
Yeah.
So you get away with...
The 11 units that has to be tied into a central alarm system.
Okay.
That doesn't mean they don't have to have a fire alarm system. What this is talking about is an alarm system that rings out either to a central station, a private contractor that calls,
Yep.
or is hooked up to the municipal circuit. So there's very limited properties that have to be hooked up to a central system or the municipal circuit. This would address those, to streamline those.
So it's a very narrow, I guess,
It is.
Group that this really will be affecting.
Exactly. It would only be for new construction, and typically updated fire codes for buildings don't kick in until it's over 50% of the actual cost of the property in renovations. So.
All right. John, any questions?
No, my only comment was going to be that it's going to affect very few folks, and I can't think of a whole lot of new construction going on in the areas of places that this will affect, so as long as we get the proper information to Planning and Zoning Office, should be helpful, if anything.
All right. Barry, anything?
Oh, almost set, thank you.
Keith? No. Herb?
I'm good.
All right.
I think it's a great idea.
Yes, state your name for the record.
You're talking to me?
Yes, you raised your hand.
Fritz Welding's in here.
Yes.
What is the criteria? What triggers when you are subject to any of the requirements in this ordinance?
It would be by the type of construction that you're doing. And that'd be by the NFPA fire code.
Can you state what the criteria are? That's what I'm asking. I didn't ask for what Bible it was in and where that Bible is. I was asking for the criteria. That's facts. Do you have those facts?
I could get you those facts. It'd be assembly occupancies.
Excuse me? Repeat it again?
Assembly occupancies. Movie theaters, dance halls, the Opera House if it was being rebuilt, those kind of places. Manufacturing facilities such as Ruger. We're talking new construction now, but this is just giving an example. Medical facilities such as the medical center, if a new hospital was being built. Apartment buildings with over 11 units that are required to be tied into a central alarm system. And
What are the 11 units?
apartments. And that's off the top of my head, that's all I can think of right now, but I can get you the codes.
Is the criteria stated in the ordinance?
The criteria outlines it by fire code, NFPA.
Would it be more?
So as a citizen reads this ordinance, they see this reference to fire code, and their interpretation is what? Where do they get that information? Do they ever go and get that information? So that being said, in the ordinance itself, does it tell you no parking on this street on the left-hand side? Or does it say no parking where there's a sign? In other words, is it vague or is it specific?
I think it's specific.
Can I get a copy of that?
Sure. Okay, anything else? All right, anyone else?
oh.
Yes, Chief.
No, go ahead.
Nope.
I just have two other fire department related items. I don't know. The grants.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, if the board doesn't mind, he
No.
can fill you in on a little bit of, very nice little grant activity we got going on.
So the past 2 weeks, we've received two federal grants the fire department has. The week before last, we received a grant for $26,000 with a 5% match to expand our address sign program. Those are the red signs that everybody sees around. I had put this fire prevention grant in a couple months ago in order to be able to purchase enough signs to do every building in town. If somebody wanted one, we would have enough supplies on hand to do that. So that's a federal grant that we got. Last week, we were awarded a grant for approximately $119,000 to put power lifts for our cots, for the stretchers in the ambulances. So I submitted 4 AFG grants this year, and we've received 2 of them so far. So.
Pretty good return.
And we are compiling a list of all the grants that we've received over the last year or so
Yeah.
that we will be bringing to the select board for your review.
Okay.
Probably at your next meeting.
Do you have any power lifts in the ambulances now?
We don't. We just have the power cot. So the cot will just, is power that lifts up and down.
Yeah.
The power lift is the actual system that will come out of the ambulance, attach onto the cot, and lifts it up and brings it into the ambulance.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. And are ambulances capable of handling that without, or does
Yeah.
this include the cost of modification?
This includes everything. Yeah. It includes update to the current cots that we have. Ambulance 3, the newest ambulance we got, when we ordered it, we got it wired with a performance load system, which, so that the ambulance itself is already set up for it, so they would just simply take the performance load system out, put the power load system in it, and we're good to go. The other 2 ambulances would have to be retrofitted, but the grant included all that, for all that work.
Was it like a little bolt-in item that you just?
Yeah, it's like the new ambulance has a center mount system, so it locks in and charges the cot. The power load system is the same thing. It's a center load system that has, basically you push a button and it extends the cot out and drops it down and then releases it and you pull it out. And when you push it back in and it locks in, you press the button on the cot and it lifts these set of levers up onto the bottom of the cot, raises the wheels on the cot, and then you just simply slide the cot into the ambulance. So it reduces strain and stress on having to actually muscle and lift the cot up into the ambulance.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
yeah.
But the firefighters still have to carry the patient down the stairs on the cot.
Yes, or in the stair chair, or however we do it. Yeah, we still got to get them to the cot.
Right.
So yeah.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you.
So what are the other 2 grants you have out? Anything of interest? New
Well,
fire truck?
yeah, I got a new fire truck grant out there. We'll see. That
Yeah.
one was for, I put in for $600,000 or $700,000 for a new fire truck.
And everyone in the country does the same.
That is a very, very, they don't award a lot of money for that. So we'll see. And the other one is for the SAFER grant for staffing. That was a $1.2 million, but that's a very competitive grant also. So, for the fire prevention grant, we were one of 19 in the country to get awarded.
We often get outgunned by the bigger cities on their equipment, trucks, grants.
Bert?
2 things. The $600,000 is probably why Portland's having their riots and burning the town so they can get a new fire truck.
And the other thing?
Huh?
And your other thing? You said 2 things.
Yeah, I'm on to the second one now. I just wanted to pause there for absorption. Hunter just made a statement about listing all of these, and I hope he does that, puts it in the annual report. I believe it's in dollars more than what we've ever received in this period of time. And if I'm correct, most of them come with criteria or requirements, but none of them require additional staff to be hired, but does take staff time to go through. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I would say, no additional staff to operate or maintain, but additional staff effort to manage the grant itself for a specific period of time until the grant is expended. It's really record keeping and reporting.
And this is part of the role of the Economic Development Coordinator, which is currently being funded through a private-public partnership. And, Christine's doing an excellent job there. Her predecessor was very good too, so we're fortunate to have her, be researching and getting these grants and working, with Hunter and the department heads to, find these grants and write the applications in a manner that meet the needs of the town.
And the department head that is implicated by the grant is often involved in helping Christine and myself and Paul to administer the program. So it's not just Christine by herself.
Yep.
And in one grant, we do have, it's a construction grant that's pending. There is money in that grant to hire an engineer to oversee that particular grant because it's very, very record heavy. And so we do have a part-time temporary, money in there for a part-time temporary consultant to assist with the collection and administration of information on that particular project.
2 points. The grants come sprinkled. This month one, next week one, so on. This document will put it in context where it can all be put together. So that's good. And then understanding that the cost to get this is minimal. And if we didn't get it, somebody else would. Now, when I was a selectman sitting at that table, we had a $350,000 CDBG grant, and I opposed it. And Ed Slavich said, Bert, if we don't take it, they'll use it to study mosquitoes in Louisiana. I didn't think he was right at the time, but now he probably would. So this list will be good, and it should be in the annual report as long, also as being presented here as part of what is done.
Yes, Hunter has it on his whiteboard in a little corner there, and I think there are, 21 grants listed up there?
21 so far, yeah, we have.
Yeah,
like
so,
8 or 10 pending.
And as I mentioned at the Apple Pie Craft Fair, Christine behind her had a banner up there that showed a lot of the grants that we've gotten already. I think it was from $5,000 to $600,000. And a lot of these grants, as you said, if we don't get the grant, someone else will. It's not like the feds or whoever's pumping out this money is going to return it to the taxpayers. And the grants we are getting are grants that, for the most part, they're things that have to be done at some point, and we'd rather use grant money to do it than have to raise it through raising taxes, such as the $340,000 we got to work on the back of the Opera House. The work there has to be done at some point. This way, it's being paid for by someone else. The $600,000 we got to do additional work on our water lines.
Save all of this for when the list is here and you go down that list and it's on the agenda and it makes a point and a record. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get that condensed so that the people actually see, and that you can, it be in the annual report, and it'd be, Archie might write it up.
Maybe if, there's nothing else going on that week.
Right.
Yes. But it's, and in one part, because Hunter has been very good about it and having, staff, work on getting grants, that's one reason we are able to keep our budget as flat and level as it is. So, anything else on this? All right. Thank you, Chief. Well, we have the chief here, and we have Lieutenant Early here from the fire department. Why don't we jump ahead to the action item, and so we can let them get out of here at a reasonable time, unless you want to stay till the end. You want to speak to your Cold River Fire Chiefs Association?
So yeah, as everyone knows, the 20th anniversary of September 11th is coming up. So the Cold River Fire Chiefs Association, who Lieutenant Early is our representative in that association, they would like to ask if we can use the common for a memorial in the morning, and that the fee would be waived. And I can let Lieutenant Early talk a little bit more about what the planned agenda would be.
The planned agenda would be starting approximately 8 o'clock. And for every event on 9/11, there'll be a description of what has happened. And then there'll be the bells tolled, and then we'll wait for the next event, and so on going down the line. We're also looking at having the Leominster Auxiliary has offered to kind of have some waters or coffee or something for somebody in between, so that everybody doesn't have to just stand there and wait. We thought maybe you could congregate and that kind of thing. Doesn't look like it should last. We're looking at being done by about 11-ish. When it's all over and it's open to the public, it's open to anybody that wants to come. That's why we thought that the Cold River Association thought that the Common in Newport was a large venue, depending on how many people we could get. People could come and go, and it keeps everybody separated as they choose to. That's a lot of area for somebody to still view the ceremony without being in an inside venue. So
It'll be parking a couple ladder trucks on the common with a giant flag between them?
no, we're not going to put the flag up, but we are going to have our ladder truck out with a flag on it. But we didn't want to take up that much space. Not sure how many people would be around as well.
Yep.
That takes a large amount of individuals to fold that flag and put it away and assemble it. So
It's been a while since it's been out in town.
Rollins Drive would be the last time we had that.
Yeah.
We would have area departments would be here, so we would be basically hosting the event.
Yep. Any questions from the board? John, any questions? Anyone want to make a motion on this?
Make a motion that we waive the user fees for the common for the 911 20th anniversary.
Is there a second? Second. All right, John. Any discussion? All right, since John's on Zoom, we'll take a roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Herb?
Aye.
Keith?
Aye.
Barry? Aye. And I'll vote aye. All right? You're all set. Thank you for doing this.
Good, thanks.
Okay.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, moving back to informational B. RSA 674:39-AA, restoration of involuntarily merged lots. Susan Levitt / Clement. All right. Who's speaking on this?
So, Mr. Chairman, this is less complicated than it would appear. There's a resident that lives on 4th Street who was looking to, she has 10 what we refer to as piano key lots. They're very narrow, long lots, which are typical for that particular area. They're 20 feet wide, approximately. And she was interested in creating a separate lot, putting together some of those piano key lots for the purpose of placing another residence there, and effectively getting 2 residences on what she previously only had 1 on the 10 piano key lots. So she had 1 residence on 10 piano keys. She wanted to put a second residence on 5 of those 10, and in effect went through a subdivision process with the planning board. Planning board has approved has surveyed and has approved essentially the creation of 2 lots where there used to be the 10 piano key lots for the purposes of establishing a second residence there. The planning board conditioned their approval by indicating that it needed select board approval. I reviewed this with council. The select board have no authority on such matters. This is an area that is reserved to the planning commission or the planning board. And so council is recommending that you take no position on this. Don't vote in support of it or against it because it's beyond your jurisdiction. Merely to acknowledge that it came before the board. The board did not object and rendered no opinion on it. So we can basically check that box for her and let her go on about her subdivision.
Did the town at some point merge these 10 small lots into a single lot
No.
for purpose of taxing or something?
Only for tax billing purposes, but they were not altered. The parcels continued to exist as
Okay.
pre-existing non-conforming, well, in this case, they'd be conforming for that particular time. But it was not merged for any other purpose.
So it was not merged into a single parcel, there's still taxed as 10 individual lots and
That's
all?
correct. The parcels are of record. In fact, the current owner received them via a deed, which identified each and every one of the 10
Yeah,
lots. And
1,
so
3,
they
6,
continue to be lots of record
Okay, so there is no,
until now.
there is no one merged lot
That's
that
correct.
was,
So what she did was she took essentially
Okay.
5 of her 10 lots, merged them together to create one lot, kept the remaining 5 piano key lots for a second lot, had them surveyed as such, and subdivided the lot in that manner, and the planning board has approved that. So she's good to go.
okay, I might have missed a step. If there's 10 separate lots,
I might have misspoken. It's 5 and 5.
right, but did at some point, did 5 lots get merged into one and 5 into, so we're still talking about 10 separate lots.
Prior
Which-
to the subdivision, that's correct.
But how can you subdivide 10 lots and come out with 2?
Because she
Don't you have to merge
resurveyed
them?
the property.
I mean, generally you would merge the lots
Right.
and then subdivide.
She merged them for the purposes of creating 2 lots. So she merged
Okay.
5 together, had them surveyed. It's not quite exactly those 5, it's about 2
Right.
feet short.
Yeah,
So she redefined the space that was previously occupied by 5 piano key lots and turned it into a surveyed lot.
but, okay.
So
that-
she has merged them or caused them to be extinguished. And
Okay.
now it's, the 5 piano key lots have been replaced essentially by 1 lot.
So the planning board is happy with the fact that she merged her lots into these.
Yes, and has approved the
And
subdivision.
the planning board has looked at a final subdivision for these former 10 piano key lots,
Right,
which will end up being 2 lots that are more conforming to what is now expected in
yes.
that.
I think it's a win all the way around because you get rid of the 10 piano key lots and the potential confusion that may cause down the road. It enabled the property owner to get a second residence on the property, which was her objective, and the lots are now more conforming or more consistent with.
And legal feels that everything has been done so that we're not going to face any sort of legal challenge.
Correct.
And
Council's happy with the process.
The legal recommendation is for us to say, yep, that's nice, and
Move on.
planning board's doing their job, and we have no say in this.
Correct.
John, do you have any questions or comments on this? Perfectly clear to you?
Yeah, I understand completely, and I think it's a wonderful thing that we were able to review it.
Barry, any, all set?
I think John said it well.
Yep. Keith? Herb?
Sounds like they were getting ready to put a trailer park in at some point.
I don't know what they were doing. but
20
that's-
foot wide lots?
24.
That's what they were, the shotgun lots.
Sounds like they
I
were
think
gonna
is
have
what
like back trailers in there at one time and.
Very long and narrow.
Yeah, I think in the south they're called shotgun lots.
Okay.
Bert, you had a hand up?
This is different than mine in the sense that mine are all together and going to be separated. And at the end of this, I'll ask Hunter where that is. But what really happened here was the lots were not recognized as individual lots. And so a variance was required and planning board was required. No, was not. These were 10 individual lots, of which the owner had built over the lines by the statute that married them. But over here, there was nothing done. They were still separate individual lots. And she was looking to do a building here. Was going to have to get a variance because the frontage
Right.
was not sufficient to meet the requirements. And that was not the case, because with the 5 additional, or whatever lots were unused, she could do pretty much anything she wanted to do. They were individuals. She could marry them and still go forward, because they, deeds started, I went back as far as 1921, prior to the zoning. So what really happened here was the gauntlet that she was going to have to go through, she didn't have to go through. But I take exception to the attorney saying that you have no say here. That statute says that in order to do this separation back and reverse, it has to come to you. Well, Hunter is right that this was a wonderful solution for everybody involved. And the zoning board didn't have a say.
Right. And as you said, it has to come to us. It's come to us, and we will acknowledge that it came to us.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Anything else?
No, wait a minute. And so now my question for Hunter is my request.
No, you can talk to him afterwards about your, we still got a meeting to go on. You want to talk about your joining of lots and stuff?
Yeah, I want to ask him that question.
You can ask him after the meeting.
Why can't I ask him now?
Because it's irrelevant to this case before us right now. We have other things on the agenda. We have PJ that's been sitting there quietly the whole time. He's probably got like 4 other things he was planning to do tonight. We got Archie who's going to run out of, paper to write on.
I didn't come here with 80 questions, Jeff. Okay? So I'm asking now that question of Hunter. What is the progress? Where do we stand on my request?
Little to none, and I'll call you in the morning.
All right, moving on. High School Coach of the Year. All right. Let me find this here. Somewhere. All right, 2021. USTF CCCA High School Track and Field Coaches of the Year. The U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association, that's an acronym, announced the state-by-state winners of its 8th annual High School Track and Field Coaches of the Year presented by the United States Marine Corps on Thursday. 1 boy coach and 1 girl coach from 47 states, as listed below, were honored for their successes during spring 2021 as selected by a committee of experts from around the nation. And the Coach of the Year for boys from New Hampshire is PJ Lovely of Newport High School. PJ, congratulations.
Why, thank you.
And outstanding.
We,
Just what did you do different that made you stand out this year?
well, I had great kids, and I had very good coaching staff. So anything you do is you gotta have good quality kids and good helpers to make sure it gets done.
So you get to be flown out to Las Vegas for a big award presentation or anything?
Not that I know of, but the Marines contacted me saying they were gonna do something. I don't know what that is.
Good. Yes.
It was a nice honor. We really
Yeah.
did have a good bunch of kids, and we started a youth Hershey track program. Probably that's been going on for 30 years in town. But we had big lot of kids
Yeah.
a long time ago. Yeah, your kid, your son did it.
My son made it to Hershey
Yeah,
for that,
he did.
you know, with 3 others for
Yeah.
the 4x100 relay.
Yeah, and we had a big crew, this crew, and this was their senior year,
Yeah.
and they really, really did well. And we had a good year. We had 4 females go to the state meet, and we got 3rd in the state. One won that second place, which is the best Newport has ever done. The boys won the state championship, first time since 1958. So, and there was only 6 athletes there. It was just, we had a decent-sized team, you know, in the season, but, you know, the ones that made it to the state meet was a few left, so. It was a nice honor, and thank those kids and my helpers for sure.
And that's the mark of a quality coach and leader who you recognize everybody. And that's very important, so.
Yes, well, yeah, you know.
But they wouldn't do it without a good leader.
Right. Everyone needed each other. Yeah, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Congratulations. Do you have a plaque or anything, or?
They were gonna send me something, they said, I don't have anything to show.
Don't you get a weekend all expense paid? Was it Paris Island?
No, I was,
Not Paris. Out of Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a national.
Marines are pretty busy today.
They are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my Marine goes to
Yeah.
Alaska in
Right.
February.
Yeah.
So he's getting called up for a month active duty, so. Yep.
All right. Again, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congrats, PJ. Make sure Hunter buys you lunch at least.
All right.
I can do that.
Yeah, right.
Is that expenditure in the budget?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't say the town. I said Hunter.
Yeah. Okay, community center update. This basically, I think it's time we make a determination as to whether we're going to go after a community center or not. I am of the feeling that our current rec center is getting to the end of its useful life, and I think it's important that we move forward with planning and see about bringing about the replacement of the rec center with something that is more in line with today's needs. 2 years ago, we had a committee formed that looked at the needs and such. Barry was a representative on that. PJ, you were very much involved in that. They came up with a center, and somewhere I think I had some notes left over from before on that. If I can find them. Somewhere I put them. Yeah. But, under this thing from Hunter. Yeah, Newport Community Center. Some notes I put together in October of 2020. So actually this was when we were considering bringing it back last year, but in the middle of COVID, it was not the right time. Our current rec center was built in the 30s as a National Guard armory, and I think the town took it over at some point. PJ, you've been in charge of the rec program for what, 20-some years or so, 25 or so?
Yeah, 93 I started, I've been director for about 24 of those years.
Yep, so quite a while. The size of the armory down there, which is our current rec center, is about 8,500 square feet. Okay, the gymnasium there is a little under 4,000 square feet. As an alternative to building a new center, we had our engineers look at what it would cost to renovate the current center and bring it up to code and make it about as usable as we can given what we were working with, and they came up with a $2.9 million cost of renovating the center. A new center that came up with by the committee involved. We were looking at 19,720 square feet with a gym that was, basically at least a little more than twice as big as what is currently in the old rec center. We were looking at 8,694 square feet. cost for a new center back 2 years ago was estimated to be about $6.5 million, and I think this was a not to exceed cost. The intent of the town was to raise about $3 million from donations, and by the time we decided to put everything on hold, we had commitments for about $1.7 million. Okay, so we were looking at a cost to the taxpayers about $3.5 million versus for a new center, state-of-the-art 2020 construction versus old armory costing us $2.9 million. Some of the things that were also in the cost of a new center included the removal of the old rec center and construction of new storage garages on that site to replace the ones that would be taken down to make room for the new center. The location selected for the new center was down on Meadow Road across from the Meadow Park, pretty much where there's currently a baseball field there now, and the ambulance garage and an equipment shed for Public Works. The center, it was proposed, would fit on that lot with the ball field, but would require turning the ball field 180 degrees. And at this point, here it is 2 years later, Hunter is working on getting updated cost to go forward. We've still got a rec center that is 2 years older, that much closer to being, you know, at some point the cost of repairing that's going to be overwhelming, and I think it's important that we move forward with replacing it with a center that will meet the needs, not of us, but perhaps of our kids and our grandkids going forward. And I think it could be quite a legacy, you know, to leave to the town. At the time we are looking at, you know, everyone looks at what it's going to cost them on their tax bill, and I think we were somewhere around 60 cents per thousand for the first year of the bond being paid off on this. And I think over the past 2 years, with, you know, Hunter's leadership and Paul's work with finances, we've shown that the town can operate on a level budget, level tax rate, maybe even going down a little bit, so that I think we can build confidence that when putting in a capital investment like this, there will be no surprises on the town finance side. And with all the grants we're getting in, you know, it's taking care of a lot of the, I guess, one-time structural or infrastructure needs that we have in town. And what I want to do is move forward and call for a meeting to reform a committee to move forward, maybe review what was done, and start, you know, initially decide, yes, we have this commitment, we have this need, we need to move forward, and then start, I guess, going out, meeting with groups in town in order to bring something forward in April at our deliberative session, and then vote on in May. The costs will go up. I think we can work on getting more input, community commitment and such. So if anyone has any questions as to what's involved in this, I mean, all the information is on the town website, the layout of it and such. And I don't know, PJ, I mean, some of you were involved with a lot of the initial looking at it, and I sat in on a few meetings, and I know the group that was there, they went over a lot. I learned a lot one meeting I was at about what goes into a gym floor than I ever knew before. So there's a lot of looking at that. We're certainly not getting the, you know, say the gold standard floor, but we're getting, but what the group decided then was, you know, looking at what was appropriate for the uses and such that we have. And my personal feeling is that a structure like this speaks highly as toward the commitment the town has in itself, and it helps make us more attractive for people looking to live and locate their business here. I also think that given the way the real estate market has been over the past year, and if it doesn't drop back, I think we could see a reassessment of our real property in town that will give everyone perhaps a little boost in what their properties are assessed at, so that we could then on the town side look at, countering that with a reduction in the tax rate. People would still be paying about the same for their properties, but they'll feel better for it because they see the value of their property going up and the rate going down a bit. So I think this is, I would prefer to see us moving forward on this before we come to the point where, say, the rec center becomes, basically a hole we have to pour money in to prop it up, or perhaps even have to close it down and, the kids in town lose that access. And really, I don't know, PJ, how things were last year when you were basically not able to have kids there. If you saw any result from kids from not having that access, because for a lot of kids it's probably a very safe place for them.
We did see a little bit of, and I'm sure the police can speak to this too, because a lot of kids in the after school were hanging out elsewhere when the rec center was A, closed, or B, limited because of COVID. And they would be at certain parks and getting in a lot more trouble and doing things they probably shouldn't with some quality, better role models anyway. So we did see some of that with kids that couldn't get in. That said, we're going to do similar this year because of COVID. We're not going to allow as many kids in. We do 6th grade and up in our after-school program. We used to do a little bit younger and up, but because of foreseeable future, we can't have 100 kids in the rec center. We used to get close to that every day.
And you were still turning kids away.
We're still turning kids away. Now we're turning them away, but we're saying we're turning them away ahead of time. Yeah. So it's unfortunate. We can't get some of the parents, especially those Richard school kids who are 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, and maybe they'll let them walk down, but maybe not. They won't be able to come to the after-school program this year. And that hurts a little bit.
Certainly with a larger facility, you could have more space to spread out students. You can have separate them into more age-appropriate activities and such.
And different rooms, a couple rooms.
Right, and also with Meadow Park would be right across the street.
You can supervise the kids a little bit better that are down there without supervision presently.
Right.
The staff can go out there and you have a playground to play on. And
yeah.
It would be still a nice place and something we would like to pursue. I'd be happy to be on the committee again. And I don't know if you want to pursue new committee members, whatever you guys would like to do, and ask for new ones, or see if the old ones want to come back. I can't speak for any of them. They put a lot of effort into it and they did a great job.
And in one regard, we were kind of rushed back 2 years ago and stuff, but I think we have a good plan. There may be some revisions that need to be done or such. Certainly the costs need to be updated so we can start looking forward, and I think it's important as much as anything for outreach, to do the outreach to the various interest groups that may be interested in, how it impacts them or such. So, and
The
I
Little
think,
League folks were, they were worried that they would lose some of their control of the Little League field. I know it's town owned now, presently, but there's a little bit of apprehension about giving up some of that space, even though we're getting a nice, beautiful new facility.
and I know I think this year there's been a couple questions about mowing the grass there, and I think the town's taking care of that up for them. Was that there, or was that up at the high school?
It's at the high school.
At the high school
Taking
field,
care of
okay.
their own.
Okay. But, I don't know, what's the feeling of the board?
We've reached that tipping point where if we're going to revitalize the program, or the, what way you want to put it, we're gonna revitalize the existing plan for voting for next year, we're gonna have to get started and put it into motion.
Get people-
There's probably gonna be a lot of turnover, people won't wanna be interested in doing it again. So we'll probably have to find some new bodies, but,
I've talked to a few people who were involved before and they are ready to go again. But that's just a couple. I mean, there's a list on the website of the people who are on the committee and such, so, you know, I would be reaching out to them, see if they would like to get together again, at least maybe perhaps have an organizational meeting. I was thinking, try to have a meeting a week after Labor Day, that Monday, whatever that is, the 13th or whatever, not sure. But see if we could get a group together then and, you know, see who's interested and start making some plans as to how to move forward if we want to bring this forward.
probably take a little while to refire the interest in public donations as well. At the,
Yeah, and I know Christine has mentioned, you know, one company that was looking to get interested in contributing, so there may be some who don't feel like contributing now, but others that do, and, you know, and maybe the bank will put that extra zero back on their check, you know, when they had it back. So, but, it's, I mean, certainly our rec center is not getting any, it's not aging well. I mean, I think PJ has done a lot there, but, you know, the building has serious limitations. And,
I think the time has come for the current plan as well. I mean, if we're going to redo the current plan, now's the time. Otherwise, I think the plan, you know, in the future would have to be completely from scratch.
Well, I wasn't crazy about the idea, period.
which idea?
Putting the rec center where you're talking, because I go by there all the time, I live right there. And it doesn't look like there's enough room there for a building. And turning the ball field's gonna take up the same square feet. What is turning it? I don't see it.
It
Makes
allows
any-
the building to fit. Have you looked at the plans?
I haven't seen actual plans.
Yep.
But I'm just looking, there's an embankment on two sides, and I'm like, I don't see room for a building.
Okay.
Certainly not if you want to add parking.
Yeah, they had parking there too.
For what, 10 cars? I just don't see it. I'm looking at the size of the area.
I was
And it's
concerned,
like, you gotta be kidding me.
I was concerned as well with the parking. They did
So-
suggest parking up above, on top of the hill.
I was looking at that during the apple pie craft fair this weekend, because if you look at all those parking lots down around that area, they're packed. But those, between the buildings, the back of the DMV building, in between that and that other old railroad building there, there's a bunch of asphalt there that doesn't get used. So, I don't know if Jim Dombrowski would be in favor of allowing parking
If we paid him enough, he probably would.
there. Sure.
I think you're right, I mean, parking was gonna be tight down there no matter what, because you have a field hockey game down there, baseball game and a football practice, it fills up, even with organized parking.
Yeah.
You're right, parking was gonna be tight, and if it is there, it will be tight.
Well, I look at where, the park, where they park now,
That's pretty much the layout.
that's not a very big building.
19,000 square feet. Double what we got now.
Really?
A little more. 19,720 square feet.
So what happens with Toll School Building? Is that like, that doesn't even get used hardly?
Well, the school district is using it, and before we selected on this site, you know, we looked at several sites, and one of the criteria was it needed to be somewhere where kids could walk to. You know, we couldn't put it up in North Newport. You know, we wanted kids to be able to walk after school.
Right, makes sense.
And one was looking at expanding the existing rec center, pretty much adding a wing to it, which would mean buying land from the adjacent property owner that we currently rent right now. The other one did involve taking over toll, but that also included the cost of building a new gym for the high school up at the high school.
Doesn't the high school have a gym?
They have a practice gym. Back when that was built in the 50s, it was like, we'll put the practice gym in now, we'll build a real gym in a couple years. And that was like 60, 70 years ago. More than likely, given the size of, and the third option was to build new where we are now. And that actually came in least expensive, building new.
On where the existing rec center is now?
No, where we're proposing this down at Meadow
At the-
Park,
at the
yeah.
park.
And all those proposals are on the town website. On the main page, there's a link to community center stuff. But I think, you know, at least to go forward, you should, you know, take a look at that stuff. We can see what
Yeah, I would love
we
to.
do. But the facility would be a little more than twice the size of what they have now. Ball field is still sits right there. You know, the parking is, I didn't count the number of slots, but, you know, there's also parking alongside the street on Meadow Road, which you have. Thing is, field hockey's moving out of there, right?
Right, but we're bringing in more people because we're bringing in youth soccer's coming back.
Okay.
So,
Which, you know, nice having the community center right there.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing with the field arrangements at the high school, we used to use their softball fields for our youth soccer program. So because they made some new fields down there, we won't use that. We'll go back to Meadow Park because they took field hockey out of Meadow Park. Although they didn't officially yet. Anyway, they're still practicing there until
Yeah,
the field is ready.
Yeah.
But we'll probably have more people down at Meadow Park with our youth soccer program than field hockey would have. Except game-wise, it's about the same.
Yeah, I mean,
Games bring a
it's,
lot of parents.
I think it'd be best if they kept field hockey there for another year and let that field mature more.
I think it's what they want at least. I think you can play games down there and practice at that park. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's, you know, you look at that site and you basically take into account that's also stretching all the way over to the ambulance garage. So,
Which Jim Dombrowski has informed me is right on his property line.
which by taking it down, we'll fix that, yes. Yeah.
All right.
John?
Yeah, I'm a big believer in a new rec center. My business and my wife and I are all pledges. I'm a little nervous about timing for obvious reasons. You know, very interesting time to be bidding any very large construction project. That's my day job. Most of the good commercial outfits right now are booked well over a year out on anything. And pricing has been extremely volatile. So I'd be a little nervous to have prices updated right now. Although things have flattened significantly in the last couple of months. But I guess I would encourage a committee to be, I guess, reinvigorated and to discuss, you know, some options going forward. One thing I think personally, you know, I don't blame anybody for some momentum being lost. Lots of things have been lost in the last couple of years. But on the commitment, you know, pledge side of things, maybe to have a little longer term, you know, cumulative goal rather than you know, we're going to do it this year and let's get $3 million together before. You know, that was one of the downfalls last time, I think, because it was just a little too we tried to pack too much in too quick. And then when it did not pass, you know, the wind fell out of the sails and we kind of had to start over, which is where we're at now. So I think, you know, myself included, to be, you know, if people that had pledged had written the checks at the time, we'd have, you know, 100 or a couple hundred people, you know, trying to get this thing back up and running again, versus, you know, we might not, you know, there might be 3/4 of those same people that are not pledges now. So I think, you know, just a more cumulative approach, and, you know, when we hit this number, that's when we'll go to vote.
Yeah.
Sort of thing, rather than we're going to vote and let's see if we can come up with a number between now and then.
Yeah,
That's it, I think. Go ahead.
my feeling is on the time frame here, if this thing goes to vote in May of 2022, and if it passes, I would see construction starting perhaps spring of 2023, realistically, with maybe, I don't know how long it would take to build it, probably completion time sometime in 2024, so that perhaps we end up taking occupancy in summer of 2024 or so, maybe fall of 2024, with perhaps the first payment on the bond due in 2025. Because you don't start paying on the bond until afterwards. But I don't see this.
I understand that, Jeff. I think that the tricky part right now is, you know, I've been dealing with contractors all day, every day, is someone right now that's going to bid a construction project that's material heavy like that one is. And to hold the price out a couple of years, the contingency is not going to be $600,000 like it was last time. It's probably going to be 50% of the cost. So I think the bond that we'd be looking at right now or next spring, if we're bidding this winter, if I was the contractor, I would. There's so much more uncertainty right now of availability and pricing that I think it's just a little scary right now to be bidding any really big projects, especially if they're not ready to break ground now. Because the price is the price today, but what the price is going to be on a piece of steel or a 2x4 next summer, you know, this summer it went from, you know, $4 for an 8-foot 2x4 to $17, and now it's back to $5. What's it going to be next spring? If I'm going to be locked into a bid, I'm going to tell you about $25. It's never been anywhere near that, other than this last summer for about 2 months.
Well, I mean, that's, you know, you've got the expertise there, and I was just thinking, I don't know, just thinking how it could go. I mean, Bread Loaf basically has this thing almost ready to go with the designs, and they could probably turn it around a lot quicker. One of the issues we had with the bond was we would, and the way it was worded and the way we would word it again was we wouldn't be starting this until we had the hit a certain threshold with the donations and grants to cover that part. And I believe we would want to have that in hand before we move forward. So we could move forward quicker or not. You know, it's, I mean, that's certainly something to keep in mind and see how it goes. But who's to say, you know, I mean, traditionally, you know, I guess construction costs generally trend upward. You know, the fact that they took such a steep climb last year, you know, they're falling back some, but at some point they're going to level out and start, I would imagine, start their gradual annual increase. But I could be wrong.
I don't think we have anything to lose by seeing if there's, you know, a similar group of people that are interested in chatting about it and coming up with a game plan.
Okay. Herb?
Agree.
All agreed?
Well, I just want to ask this. PJ, where are we going to go if you don't get it? What are we going to do? Do you have a plan?
We convince the school to let us utilize toll
Utilize.
for the toll gymnasium floor.
Yeah.
Not the second floor, the third floor. We try to convince them to let us operate on the bottom floor, build a new gym, say, gym at the high school, would be my thought.
So you've given some thought. Because I mean, these are hard times for everybody. I'm a great believer in youth. I think, the most we can do, the better, and the more we can do for our youth, the better we're going to be later on down the road. That's why I was in education. But
Okay,
I agree.
we also already looked at that proposal, taking over toll.
We looked at doing all the floors over, and that was really expensive. We didn't look at
just the first one.
just the first floor, the gymnasium floor, with a couple classrooms, that might be able to do ourselves a little bit, for a little bit cheaper cost, and then the school would get a bigger gym, which would benefit us and the school at the same time. That would be my backup plan.
Sort of your Band-Aid.
Yeah, I mean,
It
the
really
the toll gym gives you spectator seating, which we don't have, gives you locker rooms that we don't have, gives you 2 smaller or large-sized classrooms that you can do for after-school program for teenagers, and maybe one could be a fitness room or something. It gives us a lot more space than we have now presently. And I don't know what you do with the present community center, but it would increase our capacity slightly. Would it fix everything and do everything we needed? No.
When is the school going out for the CTE center?
They would be going for a vote this March.
So just ahead of us.
Right. They are looking at about a $10 million renovation. State picking up 75% of it.
Yeah.
From the last meeting I attended, the business manager feels he can pick up, I think it was around 2 million more with grants and other things. So that, it's almost like, he was almost saying he almost doesn't need to bond this.
Yeah.
So.
I think we need to work with them, because we don't want to create
No.
this against them, We got enough of that going on in this
No,
town
I mean,
as it is.
both projects are critical.
Yeah, I like what you just said, though. That's
need
good. Yeah.
And initially, I would say the gold-plated renovation up there was about 13 million.
I know she's cut back quite a bit.
And she's cut back on sizes for the programs, and all I know welding is like sort of hit, the middle between the initial one and where they are now. And other programs I can't recall. We saw the presentation, but it was all through Zoom or whatever that.
Good, thank you.
So,
Good information.
but I mean, it's the cost to the taxpayers was very minimal, especially since Ed feels there's grants available for a bunch of it. So, grants that we wouldn't have available on the community side. Though I will say, Hunter has and Christine have been looking at grants and all. We actually did have a $200,000 grant to apply to that, and then they thought better of it and said, instead of that, we'll give you $250 and you can do the windows and heating in here. So, I mean, yes, and state your name for the record, please.
John Lunn. In editing and watching that the last RAC program, the gold-plated project was 20 million, 19.5 million. The one that they really like is about 13 million.
Okay, Mr.
And then the $10 million one was the maybe we can a lick of paint here and some plaster there, and we'll see what we can do to keep what exists going. With the $13 million project, as Jeff said, that the hope is that it made the cost to the taxpayer may be as low as $500,000 when all is said and done. So there's a lot of opportunity.
That's the 10 million. That was the 10 million.
That was the 13. Well, as far as I remember, it was the 13 million. If they get the appropriate grants, plus with the states with their 75% and all that kind of thing. So it is going to be a smaller cost to the town than certainly was anticipated. But the $19 million one was going to be would cost us several million.
Yeah, I don't know.
$2.5 million, I think, would come out of the town unless we could find fundraisers
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, that's where they started. But anyway, at $500,000, if there may be room to be able to do the rec center as well, simultaneously.
Yeah, because if you don't do, and it almost has to be presented, not simultaneously, but there is a connection there.
Right.
Because taxpayers are taxpayers, and they're gonna be looking at that and saying, holy cow. Yeah, but I like the way you've explained it. I think it needs to be connected to the rec center process too, that, we want to do this for the youth, and we're doing this for our youth in the educational process, because that's an important thing too. I believe very strongly in CTE. So, I think you need to make sure, we don't want to create an environment of you either do this or you do that.
No, and I was concerned about that, but when I last heard his
Yeah, I like that.
presentation, and it was like, honestly, traditionally, when they first come out with their budgets, it's way more than that much.
Yeah, that's right.
And as I think I said earlier, I think on the town side, we've been able to keep our cost pretty flat, our impact to the taxpayers flat, and even down a little bit. So I think we're building, I guess,
Credibility.
not credibility, and also, I guess, capacity to be able to take on a major project like this. So unless anyone has any objection, I would like to, come on, how do we do this? Get out of this crap. Get back there. Look at a meeting on the, try to get a meeting on Monday the 13th to see who we can get together.
Where would you have it, Jim?
Probably have it right here.
Okay.
Good as any place, see who we can get together, just to start finding what interests are, what people are want to take part, who they would recommend or also step forward. So say 6:30 here on the 13th.
Okay.
So, all right. And do we have any, well, as I said, we have pretty much everything on the website. Is there? Even going back to, the original, I guess, when they did that firm out of Concord or whatever it was, when they first came up with a proposal, it was like 30,000 square feet with a
Keene, yeah. Company out of
Keene, yeah, somewhere down there, but added a second floor, which greatly increased costs and such, so. But, I think Breadloaf, certainly came up with a good plan that may need some tweaking, and, it's right up their alley, this kind of work. And you're working on getting updated figures from them, so
Yep.
at least we have a ballpark. what
Yep,
we're
I
gonna
should hear from them this week.
Yeah. And another thing, mention working with the school, I don't know how they have to start paying for it and such. But for us, it wouldn't be until after the bond is executed, which is after construction, so.
But it still will come due.
Yes, but you can plan for it, it'll be a couple years out.
Yeah.
And as I like to say, by the time you start paying for it, you go up and kick it and actually see what you're buying. So, all right. Anything else on that? All right. Moving on. Okay. Something I've been negligent on, and we probably should have done it during the summer. But we should get together for a board retreat, mainly so we as a Board of Selectmen can look at what we want to be doing the next year and give direction to Hunter. Thank you. And to the staff.
Congratulations.
All right. And I guess we need to find a date for that. And I already took the 13th. So, I guess tomorrow would be too soon to do it. So let me ask you this, is this a meeting we should do on ourselves? Do we feel we need a facilitator or such? I mean, I think we're fairly comfortable with Hunter and with each other that we don't need to bring in a facilitator, though I guess Primex will do it as part of our, we've done that in the past.
Yep, I don't know what their schedule is, but we could certainly inquire if you wanted a facilitated kind of discussion.
Yeah. Barry, you've been here for that, haven't you?
Yeah.
What's your feeling? Do it ourselves or maybe get
Do
Primex
ourselves.
in here?
I mean, we've got enough to look at, just looking at his board over there and just reviewing everything there. You know, it's plenty to do. I just think it's needed to come together.
Yeah.
And
Right.
have
I
a-
mean, back when we had Primex, that was when you first came on board,
Mhm.
you know, and it was pretty much laying you out all the things we wanted you to do. You know, which I think you've addressed a few of them.
One or two, yeah.
One or two.
Yeah. John, what's a good date for you?
The week between Christmas and New Year's looks, I don't have a whole lot going on that week.
Oh, I was wondering if you were free this Friday.
Sure. At about 11 o'clock p.m.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a Monday. Weekdays are not good for me for a while. Yeah, push it out a little while and I'll do my best.
How about the 27th? It's a Monday. What day of the week works better?
Not Mondays. Probably, if I got to pick the day, it would probably be a Tuesday. Tuesday or a Thursday. And it wouldn't be anytime soon. That's just me being realistic. I don't have any weekdays during the day that I'm going to be free for the foreseeable future.
Mm-hmm.
But when did you catch that fish?
That was at about 8 p.m. last Thursday night.
Okay.
I could do a series of evenings, but during the day.
Well, no,
I could do a-
this would be an evening, you know. If it's just us and Hunter, you know, we feel we don't need to have a facilitator, so it's more.
Yep.
I don't see it taking us too long, because I think we've been fairly clear in direction with Hunter so far. It's just so that, you know, he can make sure he has our marching orders and such.
Well, it's also to bring us up to date on, I mean, there are a lot of things that kind of need to be discussed with things that need to be done.
And we can even, you know, order pizza or something.
Well, I thought that was a given.
I would think either the 28th or 29th or 30th, you know, a late afternoon start that goes as long as it needed to go and didn't conflict with, you know, planning or zoning or whatever. I could more than likely participate.
Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday? What's the preference? Anyone have a preference here?
Tuesday.
28th it is. What time you want to start?
Depends how late you guys want to go. Later the better for me. But
You guys think we should be able to get through it in 4 hours, right?
Tuesday.
Oh,
the
geez,
28th.
yes. Holy cow.
6 o'clock? 6 o'clock work?
Six is great. I was gonna say, I was gonna try to split the difference and do like 5, if that, I could make 5 of it.
Hunter?
Or, I mean, if you, 6 is better for me if you wanna do 6.
I don't see it taking us too long.
5:30.
5:30 it is. We'll start with pizza.
Tuesday, the 28th at 5:30 here.
Yeah, we'll do it here. As uncomfortable as any place.
Unless Hunter or Jeff feel otherwise, I think it would be maybe worth seeing if Christina, not Christina, but Christine
Better?
could make it. I think she'd been pretty integral, and will be more so going forward.
Perhaps for part of it, I think it's mainly between us and the town manager, but certainly it would be open, so, yeah.
Yeah.
We can ask her, you know. But this is mainly for us, you know, giving direction and getting direction from the town manager.
Public is invited, though.
It's an open meeting,
Yeah,
yes.
open meeting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. We good on that?
Yep.
28th at 5:30.
Yes, sir.
5:30, 9:28. All right, communication lease. Do we want to put this off till next time?
Yes.
Okay. You'll have to make do for 3 weeks, Toy. Or this is gonna hold up things for 3 weeks?
Yeah, but I don't think at the other end it creates any critical problem. But, you know.
Yeah, John, Hunter emailed us out late this afternoon, the lease agreement between us and Motorola for the communication upgrade. You know, none of us had a chance to look at it, but I guess, Hunter, what, the attorneys looked at it?
Yep, the attorneys reviewed it and was fine with it. Everything seems to be in order. The lease amount is slightly less than what we had budgeted, so that's good. And the equipment list it has been distributed, although it doesn't make a lot of sense unless you're in the communications
Oh,
field.
okay. That's what you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so the only thing the board needs to do is pass a resolution that Jeff is holding, authorizing us to go forward with the lease. Now, what you could do is, I suppose, if we could have our cake and eat it too, you could adopt a resolution and instruct me not to do anything with it for another week or 10 days, and unless one of you has some objection, I'll go ahead and cut it loose, and if somebody has an objection and wants to discuss it more, we won't release it, and we'll put it on your agenda for your next meeting.
Let me read this resolution. At a duly called meeting of the governing body of the leasee, as defined in lease 25132, held on August, some date, 2021, the following resolution was introduced and adopted. Be it resolved by the governing body of leasee as follows. Determination of need. The governing body of leasee has determined that a true and very real need exists for the acquisition of the equipment and other personal property described in the lease between Town of Newport leasee and Motorola Solutions, Inc., leaseor. 2. Approval and authorization. The governing body of the leasee has determined that the lease, substantially in the form presented to this meeting, is in the best interest of the leasee for the acquisition of such equipment and other personal property, and the governing body hereby approves the entering into of the lease by the leasee and hereby designates and authorizes the following person referenced in the lease to execute and deliver the lease on the leasee's behalf with such changes thereto as such person deems appropriate, and any related documents, including any escrow agreement necessary for the consummation of the transaction contemplated by the lease. And 3, adoption of resolution, the signatures in the lease from the designated individuals for the governing body of the leasee, evidence of the adoption by the governing body of this resolution. Basically, it says we determine we need the equipment, and we allow the town manager to sign for it, and his signature is good for us.
I move to adopt the resolution. And I'm not gonna read it again.
Well, it's
What you
basically, it's this
Yeah.
whole,
Yeah. I
This
move-
is a
move
lease,
to adopt the
lease
resolution.
purchase, correct?
Yes. It's a 10-year lease. I don't recall the exact numbers, but about $48,000 a year. We have budgeted 50, so it's a little bit less. I think it's fairly described as what's called a non-recourse lease. So that's a fairly lengthy conversation, but a non-recourse lease is that if at any time we were to default on it, the leaseholder has no recourse. There's nothing to do about it. It's used radio equipment. There's nothing.
yeah, the depreciation is pretty great, probably.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, well, the markup and all that. But it's that resolution basically is authenticating your need as a statement of need. We have determined that this is an essential and necessary piece of equipment for our community.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
Another question.
Go ahead.
What's the normal life expectancy of equipment of this type?
There are a lot of different components. I would say somewhere in the vicinity of 7 to 10 years. The equipment we're working with now is in excess of 20, I believe. So that's the engine. The manufacturer will say 7 to 10 years. I believe that it's a fair estimate, but the practical life is closer to 20.
Okay, the total lease is $402,930.17. Annual lease payments are $48,668.91. First year, interest is $14,465.19, and the principal is $34,203.72. And as we make more payments, the interest goes down and the principal goes up. So at the end of the term, at the end of 10 years, we are paying for $402,930,000.17 worth of equipment, along with $83,758.93 of interest.
And of note that this lease payment is already baked into our current operating budget. So by adopting this and moving forward with this project, there won't be an increase in our operating budget for next year.
Right, the nominal annual interest rate is 3.59%. What's the warranty on this stuff? Life of the lease?
I believe it's 5 and 7 years, depending on the piece of equipment we're talking about. There's lots of different pieces of equipment that have different lifespans to them.
And any other questions?
Some of the warranties are only as short as one or 2 years, depending on which piece of equipment you're looking at.
And certainly with the $1,500 or so you're saving annually, you can put that aside to replace 1 or 2 pieces.
Well, on that note, I would recommend that at the end of the 10-year effort, that you just march right into the next 10-year effort. And
Right.
maybe not necessarily buy equipment, but continue to set aside that same amount of money. So by the time you get to the 18, 19, 20-year-old stage, you have the vast majority of the money you'll need to replace that system yet again. And you'll be in good, and you can do it for cash.
John?
No, I guess that's why Hunter gets the big bucks, is his job to really dissect these things. I'd love to act like I'll make time to read it in detail before the next meeting, so that I would ask to push it off until then, but I would trust Hunter to have crossed the T's and dotted the I's, and if he's good with it, I'm good with it on this particular thing.
So you're gonna second?
I will second it.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I agree that I think we can put our trust in that. The homework's been done and it'll be a good thing.
I will tell you that the consultant that we are using, Peter Danute, he is the author and founder, developer, creator of the state's E911 system. He built and designed and built, for the most part, the state's emergency center in Concord, which is many, many, many times larger and more complex than what we have, and he's been by our side the entire way. He's helped us make some good decisions that are saving us some significant amounts of money, and put together a program, I think, that is scalable and flexible, and very cost effective. So we're really quite happy to have him on board.
Who will be doing maintenance on this?
Well, again, not to sound invasive or redundant, but it depends on the piece of equipment.
Okay.
There are two radio communication companies that we use quite a bit, so it'll depend on
There's Ospey Mountain.
Ospey Mountain, and then there's another one out of Newmarket called Two-Way Communication.
Okay.
So we'll use primarily those two agencies to
And even though we didn't buy the equipment through them,
Correct.
that's not a problem.
Yes, and I should note, based on the flavor of the conversation earlier this evening, is that these are, pricing for this are all based on state communication bid pricing, so it has already been bid. And we're buying it by virtue of the state's contracts for this sort of equipment, which is significant, not only because A, it's a good price, but B, we had early estimates to spec and write up a set of specifications to bid this project in the vicinity of $50,000 to $60,000 just for the services of writing the specifications, and so we were able to avoid that cost. So I think we're starting out ahead of the curve.
So by going with the state bid means we don't need to get 3 separate bids of our own.
Well, that would be my interpretation of the policy, but I mention it now in case you have any different interpretation, because it will extend the project for another year.
I'm good.
And cost us considerably.
All right, any other questions? All right, I'm going to call a vote, do a roll call vote. John?
Aye.
Herb?
Aye.
Keith?
Aye.
Barry?
Aye.
And I'll vote aye.
All right, so it'll take us, practically speaking, a week to 10 days to get all the documents signed and sorted out. So if anybody reads through the documents I distributed today, and I apologize for them coming out late, attorneys take vacations too, and if anybody has any concerns, please let me know, and I'll stop the process and we can hold this if you have any concerns.
All right, what else we got here?
I think that's it.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Oh, wait, no.
We had
Oh,
appointments.
sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
I got one thing that I forgot to bring up.
Okay.
From the last meeting, we, and maybe, excuse me if you guys already talked about it, but there are still a fair amount of folks, apparently, a couple of them at the last meeting, that are experiencing technical difficulties emailing us. And, I'm here in West Lebanon tonight, and I just opened on a brand new computer that I'm updating at the moment, and you click the email the Board of Selectmen, and only because I've been frustrated by this particular thing before, I could probably navigate my way to set up a new Outlook account on this new computer and all that fun stuff and do it. But for most people, I would dare say that might be a little challenging if they don't already have Outlook or something that automatically comes up. So I guess my quick fix would be to just remove that one place to click that says email the Board of Selectmen, because when you click on our names, or you could put a little thing right beside each of our names where it says email or something, and then when you click our names, the very simple, put your name in, put your email address in, and type out your message, and a place where you can add attachments. I think that works really well. But some people may not know that you can just click our names and send us an individual message. But anyways, there certainly are some folks that are having a hard time navigating the email thing. So if we could simplify it further, and just make it a little more user-friendly, I think would be doing our community a little bit better service.
Yeah, I mean, it used to list our individual addresses and phone numbers and emails, and, I had no problem with that, so I don't know if someone did have a problem, and it's now sort of like...
Well, I think what happened is there have been some people that have had concerns about their individual addresses and personal phone numbers. But then there was some concern about when somebody emails a particular board member, if that board member is not diligent about reading their mail, it could be weeks or who knows how long before that concern sees daylight. So I think it was set up so that if you wanted to email a particular member of the board, that particular member of the board got that email, plus it went to our office, so that we would also know about whatever, there's a pothole someplace or there's an issue. But we can simplify it, we can just make it directly to you and work on the idea of it maybe auto copying to our office or not. It depends. It's your email, we'll do it any way you like.
No, it's a town email system, so I would have no problem with the copy going, to a central file.
Open anyway, legally to anybody.
Yeah, so, I mean, if we can
We'll figure that
simplify it,
out.
make it easier.
But in terms of your phone numbers and addresses and all that sort of stuff, what's your pleasure? We don't care. There's been, I guess, differences in opinion.
I never worried about it. No one ever called me anyway, so.
I had no problem with the old way.
Yeah.
So your home address and your home phone number?
Yeah.
I'm all right with that.
I think mine was a post office box anyway, so. But, yeah. No, I mean, if someone wants to call about something, I have no problem.
Okay.
Good for you?
Okay, we'll do that. That's simple.
The biggest trouble with telephone, I go through bouts of a lot of robocalls or scams, and I don't answer the phone anymore. I wait for the answering machine to pick it up.
That's fine. You can call, if they need to talk to you, they can leave a message and you can call them back. Yeah.
Okay, easy enough.
Thank you. That's it.
Hey, John, don't forget to vote for your dog park.
You got it.
All right.
You had nothing under appointments?
No appointments. All right, once again, Barry,
Move to adjourn.
Second.
all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right, good luck up there, John.